Good morning, everyone. Guys, I am back. I've been away camping, limited internet access, so we didn't bother posting anything. Guys, honestly, I've got back and it just seems the world has gone absolutely insane. If you live in the United Kingdom at the moment, it feels like, there's so much stuff happening, so much like violent crime happening at the moment. I don't know whether these things are connected. I don't know whether people are just going crackers because it's the summer. But, all over the news in the UK at the moment, there's these incidents of violent crime happening, people doing things to people unnecessarily. Literally, we've got this thing in Leeds where the streets of Leeds were on fire, with people protesting. We've got the, it seems like this Trump assassination has pushed everyone into a crazy set of, ideas. And then, Joe Biden resigns. And if you've watched the videos of, nobody's seen Joe Biden basically since he's resigned. I don't know what's happening. I'm not going to speculate anything because the reality is I don't know. But if you've seen the acceptance thing where Kamala Harris, she's doing and there's something about Kamala Harris's smile, I don't like it. But when Kamala Harris is doing her acceptance speech or whatever, and she's doing this fake smile, and then you've got Joe Biden's voice echoing around like some sort of like he's speaking from another realm. It's absolutely insane. You couldn't guys, if somebody made this up and said these things would be happening, you'd go, nah, that'd never. If it was a movie and we was watching it, you'd say, oh God, this is too far-fetched, it's ridiculous, and you'd skip the next, you'd skip on to the next movie or whatever. But, it's absolutely insane. If you know what I'm talking about, I'll try and put a link to it in the description. You've got Kamala Harris and she's doing her acceptance speech, and I think she almost says, hey Joe, it's great listening to you on the recording. That's me speculating. She obviously says like that, but then she stops it and says he's on a call. So I don't know what's happening there. I don't know whether these things are pre-recorded, whether it's an AI generated voice. And I've got on our software, I can generate my voice using AI, and it's pretty, and it's all right. And that only costs me like $13.99 a month. So I'm sure there's better versions of that artificial intelligence that the US government have access to, and they could quite easily clone Joe Biden's voice. I'm not saying they have. I'm not saying they're gonna do it. I'm not saying anything. What I'm saying is I've just got back from a camping trip and everything's just gone absolutely haywire. So the main news that I see the most relevant is in the United Kingdom that, we're being told now that, well, I'll just read it for you guys. Let me read you the headline. I'll put this in as a link in the description. Britain warned it has 3 years to prepare for World War III due to a specific threat. So can you remember back, and I did videos on this back in February time, where people were coming out and they were saying, yeah, we've got 5 to 10 years to prepare. Well, guess what? No, we've got 3 years now. And this is what I think is going to happen. They're going to keep condensing this time. So, it's kind of it gets people used to it. So it's not a big threat, because I think if they came out now, the generals, and they said, look, guys, we need to be ready by November when Trump gets elected, because everything's going to go haywire, or whenever. Some people are saying that, me included, that these things are going to be declared by, what did we say, July, August, maybe a little bit later. This comes from the Andrew Bridgen interview that he gave a while ago, and I communicated that and I shared that. What I have said, I personally don't want to give timings and specific dates, because there's so much happening, and as you can see now, these dates have actually been condensed. What I will say is the next big thing to happen in Ukraine is the flying of these F-16s. I've done lots of videos on them, but I think for certainly for me and my analysis, I'm looking at that, because the thing that's stopping the Russians' main one of the main advantages that the Russians have at the moment is the use of these glide munitions. We don't have an answer for them. There's nothing we can do to defend against them. We don't have anything on our arsenal to defend against the glide munitions. So you have to go back. Okay, how are the glide munitions launched? Okay, they're air launched, so they have to go up, under the belly of an aircraft. Okay, so let's deal with the aircraft, because as soon as they're released, there's pretty much nothing anyone can do. Sorry guys, let me just have some coffee quickly. So that's kind of where I'm at now. I said I think if something's going to be declared, it will be declared when people are off in August, because that's the summer holidays. People have gone on holiday. People are away from their desk. People are not listening. It's harder to get things. It's harder to get things. It's harder to call people back. So, for example, if Keir Starmer wanted to do an emergency Cobra meeting, then he would call his MPs back, he would call his war cabinet or whatever, and, some of them would be on leave. Yes, of course, he'd be able to get a skeleton crew back to deal with whatever situations are happening. But the reality is, the people who they rely on, they'd be on leave as well. They'd be on holiday with their family. So, it kind of slows everything down. That's why I've said if something is going to be called soon, it's going to be in when everybody's on their summer holidays, kind of August time. Equally to that, guys, we need to keep watching for when these F-16s are flying in Ukraine. Anyway, sorry, news of the day. Britain's got 3 years to prepare. So I'll put the link in the description, guys. I'll just read it off here. The main points that I think are pertinent. The UK only has 3 years to bolster its army's fighting power to handle a World War III style threat from the axis of upheaval, including Russia and China, a general has said. General Sir Rolly Walker, the new Chief of the General Staff, warned that there was just enough time to re-establish a credible land force. So that's it there, guys. Remember how I always say, let me just read that again. A credible land force. Remember I always say things are in the weeds. You've got to listen to the language of these people. Like when, what was it? Like a couple of, one of my last videos when I said, yeah, literally the last video I did, I'll link it at the end of this video, where I said the subcontext of this is terrifying, because I said, okay, why is Keir Starmer talking to Zelensky about dealing with the Russian dark oil fleet? Guys, that in itself means that they're looking at the South Atlantic, they're looking at things around the Falklands, they're looking at things in Antarctica. Why? Money. There's so much money that's going to be down there, guys, alright? So, on this video, here we've got it, guys, a credible land force. So that's what they're talking about now. That's what the British military are looking at, upscaling a credible land force. Now, if we were looking at, a threat with China, then we'd want to bolster our air force. We'd want to bolster our naval forces. But we're not, because we're having this diversions. Britain is going to be dealing with Russia in eastern Ukraine. And that's it. I've said this for best part of a year now. I've said this is coming because I can see these things in the weeds. Excuse me. Anyway, so we need to re-establish a credible land force to deter hostile nations from going to war with the West. Guys, we're, from the, as far as the Russians are concerned, they're already at war with the West. They're already at war with the West. You've got NATO. What's happening? We've got NATO machinery, NATO tanks, NATO aircraft, everything NATO now has been pushed into Ukraine. So, the Russians are under no illusion. They are already at war with the West. So, for the Russians, it makes no difference, whether it's official, unofficial, it doesn't matter. Remember, it's not, the reality of the situation doesn't matter. It's the perception of that reality. So, yeah, they just go on and waffle more about, blah, blah, blah. But the main thing from this, guys, and I'll put this in the link in the description, is that phrase there. A credible land force. We would only need a credible land force if we was taking on the Russians in eastern Ukraine, in eastern Europe. Maybe they're going to push through. Maybe they're going to get up to the Dnipro. Maybe they're going to push past the Dnipro, take Kiev, and then Poland's at the next, the next country. Remember, all these things are lining up now. You've got this eastern shield with, Finland, Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, and Poland. So all these countries now are kind of making pacts, but security pacts and security agreements between themselves, which renders NATO in itself kind of useless now, because you've got these articles 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, which are the teeth of the defence of the security agreements, and then you've got the rest of them, which are kind of like administrational. Nowhere in these articles does it say that NATO will take back land that's taken. It doesn't say it. All it says is the NATO Security Council will take such action as necessary to bring peace and stability in that region. So, hypothetically, if Russia was to take a small township in, I don't know, name one of Finland, for example, if Russia was to take a small town in Finland, that speak Russian, Russia moves in, they take a small town, they do a fake election, they all vote, and that's part of Russia now. If there's no fighting, what can NATO do under the articles? They can't do anything. Nothing. Nowhere in NATO's articles of, I don't know, defence or whatever it's called, does it say, listen guys, if a piece of your country gets taken, we're going to come and get that piece back. It doesn't say that, guys, right? I've thrown them away somewhere. And that's the reality of the situation now. We've seen this as Russian tactics. They did this in, they do this, they can make, they can claim that the ethnic Russians are being persecuted by whoever, and then they say, oh, you know what, we need to move in to protect these Russian speakers because they want to be part of Russia. And then that's it then, guys, it's done. And then, they can just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. Guys, I don't think we're going to get to the end of this year without more huge escalations. We just have to look what's happening in America. Look at, guys, it's absolutely insane what's happening in America. I can't believe what's happened over the last couple of weeks. Look what's happening in the United Kingdom. We've got a situation now in the United Kingdom where we have mob rule. There's no way you can look at that differently. We've got a situation in the United Kingdom now where we have laws being broken and the police run away from those laws. Guys, I'm not going to comment on that and say how the police should be reacting, but what I will say is I think they need to do less time taking a knee and wearing rainbow flags and more time, training on how to do public order, training on how to deal with these large events, because, from what I've seen, it's a little bit embarrassing. Anyway, guys, that's it for this morning. I'm going to try and get some more videos out, let you guys know what's been happening and my analysis on that. And guys, I'm going to back to grid.